We finally made it, y'all. It's here, the 2026 IOD Winter Collection. In this video, we're going to make all these projects and more. Get ready for 4 new stamps, 6 new molds, 5 new transfers, 1 paint inlay, and 1 gilded transfer, and a couple of new accessories. I picked out one of each, and I'm going to do several projects with each. We are starting with the transfer, and this one is Cotswold Christmas. The colors in it are amazing. So I have this wall shelf. It's like a galvanized metal and wood, and I'm going to leave that wood as is. But of course, first thing I did was get some paint on there. No worries, I can fix that later. I am painting all of the metal parts of this shelf with Fusion mineral paint, which is an all-in-one paint. It has a built-in sealer, self-leveling, amazing coverage. This is the color Tapestry, which is one of the newer colors, and also a color I don't think I have used much yet. It's absolutely gorgeous. I only had to do one coat for complete coverage. Now, I'm a bookmaker also, so I always have lots of these conservatory labels poured up with resin. And I am using one of the for this one. I'm painting it to match a little bit of that transfer. I used Summer Crush by DIY, and now I'm taking a little bit of DIY liquid patina in the dark and decrepit, and I'm just going over that wood part to fix my little boo-boo where I got a little bit of that paint on there, and then I wiped it back off, and it just didn't look good. So now that the Summer Crush on my conservatory label is dry, I'm going over it with some Fusion aging wax. Normally I would seal over this first and then wax, but because I knew that resin underneath was white, I was okay with some distressing happening, because now we have like a multi-layer little tag. It's got the orange, it's got the dark, and the white, and it looks really layered and delicious. So this beautiful wreath with these amazing fall colors from the Cotswold Christmas transfer fit perfectly in the center of this shelf, and the colors go so amazing with that tapestry paint. And because I used the Fusion paint that has a sealer, all I had to do was let it dry, and the transfers come off so easy on the Fusion. All that's left to do is burnish that down, and then I decided to stamp the word peace, which was really all I could fit in this little label. I'm using the Apothecary Labels stamps, one of the pretty little fonts, and I'm using Iron Orchid Designs in white permanent ink to stamp the word peace on here. All that's left to do after that is glue it on, and for that, I'm using Titebond Quick and Thick. Now, for my next project using Cotswold Christmas, I had just this little shelf sitting thing. I painted it with the tapestry, and while it's drying, I think I've told y'all before, I always pick up these plain little soap dishes and trinket dishes. I actually did a couple in last week's video as well, because I sold soaps in my store, and these were always, I could always sell a pretty little soap dish to go with it. Tie them up with a cute little ribbon as a gift. But for this one, I am putting just these pretty little sheeps right in the center, and we're going to make this a trinket dish. And now back to our little shelf sitting frame. The Cotswold Christmas comes with all of these beautiful little village houses, and I just picked a couple out that I thought would fit perfectly on here. I layered one house over the other to really make it look more realistic. And y'all, I'm obsessed with these colors together. They are really, the only word I can think to describe is delicious together. I got the transfer on, and then I took an ink pad and just went around the edges just to give it a little bit more dimension. I just felt like that made the image pop just a little bit more. I taught a class last week and I had 4 of these Acacia wood cutting boards. So I'm going to go ahead and use them up in today's video. And y'all, I'm obsessed with this black lab. He's in this transfer pack 3 times that I could find. He reminds me of my dog Flash, who's not a lab, but he is a black flat coat retriever. So he looks very similar, and their faces both have the little gray around them. So I simply transferred him on. I put a little burgundy velvet ribbon that matched the one on his wreath, and then I cut out a little tag using my die cut machine. I also added a little eyelet to keep it from tearing, and then I finished it off with a little charm. At the very last minute, I decided this needed a little something more, so I pulled these words out, and I can't remember which book, but it's one of last year's Christmas transfer books. And it doesn't snow here in autumn or October, but I'm assuming that it does somewhere. So y'all will have to let me know if where you are, does it snow? It never snows here, so I don't have to worry about that. So here is all of the Cotswold Christmas projects. They look amazing together, and I can't wait to use the rest of this book. While I'm thinking about it, all the new release is available at susieonthefarm.com, as well as all the paint and products that I use to upcycle my items. And if you order by 3 today, I will get them shipped to you tomorrow, but it will be Monday if you don't order before 3. Oh my goodness, y'all. I'm so excited about this timely tale stamp sets. I do make books, and I also make these really cool folder planners. This stamp set has the cutest little stamps, like this duck. There's a chicken and a rabbit. You also can make your own calendars, and that was perfect for this project. Last year, I made a bunch of these folder organizers, one for each month of the year. They sold amazing, so I went ahead and got a head start on making them this year. Now, since this is a paper craft, I didn't really include the construction of the folders in this video, but I do have one over on my Susie Scraps channel, and I will leave the link for that below if you're interested in how I actually make these books. But now I'm just using a bunch of these gorgeous stamped images, making a little calendar. I'm going to ink around all the edges. I'm ripping them because I like the torn edges instead. And then I'll add them into my folder organizers. I really forgot what I called these, but they're absolutely amazing. And I stick all kinds of ephemera in them. Just a great way, like bill organizing. This works really great. It's so fun to give as a gift. I went ahead and made 3 of these, and I will go ahead and put these under the books and ephemera section of my website if you want to grab one now for next year. The paint inlay, y'all. This is called the North Pole Co. It has tons of traditional Christmas colors, and it's just absolutely amazing. So I pulled a few things that I already had, and I pulled a couple of these clay pots. I am using DIY paint for all the transfers. I do have better results with paint inlays if I use a clay or chalk based paint. For the color, I've chosen to use Gravel Road. I started to go with just a white. However, I decided to add in a little gray, and actually once this gravel road dries down, it's actually very light, almost a white. So for the first coat, I'm using a chip brush and I'm basically just getting it on there. I'm going to let that dry, and then I will come back with the second coat once it dries, and I'm going to stipple it on. That just creates a lot of texture and really gives these pots a lot of dimension. Now there's a couple of round paint inlays in the pack that fit perfectly on these pots. So now I'm going to do the second coat. I'm going to go a pretty thick coat because you really want a lot of wet paint for that paint inlay to stick into. These paint inlays are working so good for me now. Don't be afraid to try them. They're so much fun. They have, it's like you actually painted these images on. So once I get the wet paint on, then I'm going to mist my inlay on the paint side, lay it into my wet paint. And for this, since this is a rounded surface, I'm just going to use my finger. Make sure I rub over the whole thing without moving it to make sure that all the image is pressed into that wet paint. Then I'm going to set it aside, let it dry, but first I mist it again with water, dab off any excess, and then let it dry. I'll repeat the same process for the second pot, stippling on the second coat of paint, misting the inlay, adding it in, misting the whole thing again, and letting it dry. And here is where the magic happens with the paint inlay. So they're both dry, and you can tell because they'll go back to the very light color. I mist them with my bottle and then let them sit a second, and then pull off that backing paper, and it leaves that gorgeous image in your wet paint. I let them dry completely, and then I did decide at the last minute to go ahead and paint that top rim red. And for that, I'm using DIY Marquee. Just doing one good coat, and then I do want to bring back a lot of that clay terracotta color from underneath, but also I don't want to smear my paint inlay, so I'm being very careful because until that paint inlay is sealed, it is water soluble and it will smear. In my stash, I also had this wooden crate, divided wooden crate. I used to keep all my markers and stuff in it, so I decided to go ahead and upcycle it. I'm giving it one coat of the DIY Gravel Road first. I'm going to leave the inside black, just do all of the outside and the top little rim. As that first coat was drying, I could definitely tell there was going to be some bleed through, a lot of it actually. So I went ahead, and after the first coat, I took it outside and I sprayed it with a coat of shellac. Now I'm coming back with that second coat so I can put the paint inlay in it. And I used some more elements from the North Pole, I can't say that, North Pole Co. paint inlay book, and I'm doing the same thing, same process. Once you get used to doing these paint inlays, it's just second nature. They're so easy. I do prefer not having any harsh lines on my backing paper, so I kind of fussy cut around everything because our eyes are drawn. There's a little faint line when you do that, and our eyes are drawn to straight lines. So I always try to curve all my lines a little bit so you don't see that line. Now I'm doing the same process, letting it dry, re-wetting it, and removing the inlay. I'm going to let all these dry completely. I'm going to spray seal all of these paint inlay projects except for the last one, and I'll show you how to do that if you want to brush on a sealer. I'm drying this with my heat gun to make sure that it dries like I want it to look, and then because of that coat of shellac, I had to get rough with the sanding block. I couldn't wet distress it. But I went ahead and distressed back to some of that black Now we're going to use the second one of those little cutting boards that I used for my class last week. I painted it in gravel road. I went through the same thing. I left all that out, but you guys, I love the reveal where you're taking these inlays off. So I left this in here, and look how light that gravel road dries down. And I think it was a perfect addition to this paint inlay. Finish this one off with a velvet ribbon and a little Christmas tree charm because I have to be a little bit extra all the time. For the last project with the paint inlay, I had a yard sale last week with my mom and cousins and everybody. There was tons of stuff. This frame was there, not mine. It didn't sell, but I could not donate it. So I'm going to go ahead and fix it up. It did have a little bit of issue. One corner was off there. That was an easy fix with some IOD air dry clay and some Type Bond Quick and Thick. I just molded a tiny bit of clay and glued it on there. And then I cut down a piece of Luan, I think this is, to fit in there. I found this image in the paint inlay, and I did the same process, except for since this is a flat surface, I was able to use a brayer to make sure that it is pushed down all the way. And that just really ensures good contact with that wet paint. While it's drying, I love the red on this frame, but it was really dinged up, and I also had that repair place. So I'm taking the DIY marquee and going over the entire thing. I'm pretty sure it was spray painted. I wasn't crazy about the shiny sheen, so this will fix that. And once the marquee was dry, I took the gravel road and I just dry brushed pretty heavily over the entire frame, and then I sealed everything up using some DIY Big Top. Let it dry. Then it's time to get back to removing that paint inlay, which is my favorite part, of course, re-wetting and then pulling it off, leaving that gorgeous image embedded into that wet paint. Once it was dry, actually, I think I dried this with a heat gun because I love the process of seeing that completely finished right away. Yes, I did. To seal your paint inlays, because they are water soluble, they will be reactivated with the sealer. But I like to use a really light fan brush and then just really load that brush up with lots of sealer. Don't do a lot of overworking. Just get it on there and let it dry. But you can also spray seal if you are getting a lot of smearing. This one was a flat surface, so I had no trouble. And here is all of the projects from the North Pole Co. paint inlay. I did have to AI some of these decorations, but I was very clear not to change my images. I just didn't have all my Christmas decor out of storage yet. Love how these turned out. I love all these traditional Christmas colors. This paint inlay is a small paint inlay, so it's easy to do. It has lots of little images, and I know you guys are going to love it. I saved the most exciting till last. Over the years, the most requested IOD mold has been a nativity scene, and IOD has finally given us one. It is absolutely amazing. The details are so perfect. For this project, I mixed up a two-part resin, a clear resin that does take overnight to dry. I let them cure overnight, and now just look at how gorgeous these are. I took them outside and spray painted them with a black matte spray paint because I want to do gold on them, and I needed just a good base coat. Now I am taking some antique gold rub and buff and just rubbing over each of the molds, and look at the details, y'all. It's so incredible how you can, just with this gold, you can see so many details. I am going to do one more step once I get this gold rub and buff on. I'll let it dry for a little while, and then I'm going to take some Fusion aging wax and just go over the top of it. That will tone down the brightness just a little bit, and also it will stay in all those lower parts, and when I wipe back the excess, the gold will come back out on the higher parts, and the top part will have just a bit of that aging wax in it to really highlight all these very special details of this mold. So, so beautiful. I have two more of those decor boards that I used for my class last week left, so I'm going to go ahead and use them with these, but I have so many ideas going through my head to use with this mold. I just don't have enough time to do all of them, but I will get to them eventually. I use Type Bond Quick and Thick to glue them onto the boards, and then I also am using, I had these two little pieces left from the tinsel transfer from last year, and how amazing. One of them is the Peace on Earth, and the other one is For Unto Us a Child is Born. I glued the mold on, and then I also decided that the antique gold was a bit too dark compared to the tinsel transfer. So then I took some gold leaf rub and buff and just went back over, basically kind of dry brushing over those just to give them, make them match a little bit better with the transfer. I then tied a gold bow onto the top of them, and I spent an incredible amount of time trying to get these bows absolutely perfect. However, they are so beautiful. I am loving this one so much. I didn't have another board to put the shepherds on, but I went ahead and cast them anyway, and look how beautiful these are. I am obsessed. All my projects are also available under the home decor section of my website, and the books and ephemera is where I put the folders if you want to get one of those. Thank you all so much for watching my video today, and be sure you head on over to susieonthefarm.com. Get your new IOD winter collection before it runs out. A lot of these are limited, so you'll have one chance to get them. Thank you so much, and y'all have a great day.